Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here at the Cannes Film Festival, and it's time to review Armageddon Time. This is the newest film from James Gray, who is one of the most fascinating working American directors. Loved Ad Astra, thought Lost City of Z and The Immigrant were both really good. And with this one, he's taking us on an autobiographical journey back to the 80s when he's a little 12-year-old boy growing up in Queens, New York. And before you think, well, this just sounds like another Belfast, this movie is not trying to be like charming, nostalgic Oscar bait. I kind of hesitate to say that it's even nostalgic because I don't think it's trying to look back on those times any more fondly than we'd look at the present. I think this is more of a matter-of-fact approach of what this 12-year-old boy's life is like at this time and how he navigates his dreams, school, family life, and his friendship with a black boy in his class. And I felt very absorbed in the drama of his life, where many of his biggest concerns are like if he's gonna get in trouble and when he's gonna get to see his friends sneaking out of class. There's very little sensational about it, and I expect some people will kind of say, well, why did James Gray feel like his childhood was so important to tell? But I like that this movie doesn't feel like it's forcing you to find one specific conclusion within all the threads of this boy's life. It just felt grounded in his reality, and I think that's all it needed to be. Our main character, who I'm assuming is somewhat of a reflection of James Gray as a child, is kind of awkward, kind of charming, and I think Banks Repetto is perfect for this role. Sort of like the casting of Elsie Fisher in First Grade. This doesn't feel like James Gray was just trying to cast the most well-polished, well-trained actor for this part. He wanted to cast somebody who really felt believable as a misfit. The dialogue and the delivery feels really authentic and true to how people at that age communicate, and it felt very respectful of the character's wisdom and intelligence, even as they made decisions that were obviously ignorant due to their age. Interestingly, I think like the main takeaway from this movie might actually be its dissection of white privilege, because a lot of the focus of this film is on our main character Paul's relationship with his black classmate Johnny, played by an excellent Jalen Webb. This friendship made Paul realize that even though both of them get off on being troublemakers, one of them is always going to face greater consequences. The film also tackles the Reagan republicanism that was rampant at the time and draws a very clear connection between the ideology of that administration and the Trumps of today. Because Fred and Mary Trump are actually both in this movie. I feel like this will probably be spoiled for people by the time they see it, but Mary Trump is played in a surprise cameo by a very recent Oscar winner that I was not expecting. And these two are like heads of the all-white private school that Paul gets transferred to. They preach that all the success that you have in life is due to hard work and determination, and that handouts are bullshit. And at the same time, we see clear examples in this movie of white people leveraging their power and their wealth to make sure that each other maintains an advantage. The private institution itself being an example of this. And as far as this movie is like a takedown of white privilege, I think it's pretty direct and damning. And it didn't feel forced at all either. It just felt like James Gray like hit the nail on the head. Paul's family is not off the hook here. Even Paul is not completely off the hook here. His family, as Jewish Americans, are very protective over the advantage they have, knowing that that can be quickly taken away. If there's anything I wish the movie explored a little more, it was Paul's familial relationships. Now, there were a lot of scenes between him and his mother, his father, and his grandpa, but there was a little bit of a gap in my understanding of his dynamic with his family because he seemed very rebellious to them beyond the point where I totally understood why. Mostly, I felt like his relationship with his mother could have been explored more, though perhaps the lack of exploration there is a little bit intentional. Anne Hathaway is very good here, though I wouldn't say she's doing anything that's gonna like surprise anybody who's seen her work before. I would say kind of the same about Anthony Hopkins, but his role is a lot more weighty. He's really great here, and also, I feel like he could do this in his sleep. He's the one adult figure in Paul's life who's able to get through to him, and he has some of the more emotional and sentimental moments in the film. Jeremy Strong was actually the adult actor who surprised me the most. He comes across initially as a sort of stern, emotionally distant father, but he's particularly charming in a scene where he's like clanging around and waking up his kids in the morning. And there are a couple scenes later on where the emotions sort of come through the cracks, and those were some of the strongest in the film. This movie has a lot of different threads between the scathing political angle, Paul's dreams of wanting to be an artist, him being a troublemaker, you know, the family dynamics, the friendships, and it seems like other people are having a little trouble piecing all these together. And on thinking about it, I do think it all comes together. Because perhaps the most important thing for a 12-year-old is being true to who you are and figuring out how you can be yourself in the world. And Paul's growing up in a world where he sees a lot of unfairness and a world that doesn't really feel right to him. Finally, many of you are wondering, will this movie get awards? You know, as I said, it's not trying to be like that overly sentimental Belfast kind of thing. And The Fabelmans is going to be much more awardsy and geared towards that crowd. If anyone were to be nominated, I think it might be Anthony Hopkins because he has those more overtly sentimental moments. But if the movie is not really a contender overall, and I don't expect it to be, I don't think he's gonna get in without it. And I don't really see it getting anything like screenplay either. I think this is a really interesting memoir film. Nothing really grand or huge ends up happening, but I'm intrigued that James Gray still chose to tell this story anyway, keeping it grounded in the reality of this 12-year-old. And I think it's worth looking at the connections that he's drawing politically between the 80s and now. And it's definitely not a movie that's afraid to leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. I would maybe go up to a 9 on this, but I'm not really sure. So we'll invent a new grade that's like a hesitant maybe a 9. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. What'd you do in the 80s?